The Packers heading into this game, the Week 18 regular season finale, they had the 7 seed. And unfortunately, with this loss today, they remain the 7 seed. Grossi, Posse, Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. QB controversy in Green Bay, Clayton Tune, MVP Grossi. And today we are going to be talking about the Green Bay Packers game against the Minnesota Vikings, where they lost by a score of 16-3 because nobody shuts out the Packers unless we don't score any points. And heading into this game, it was pretty damn meaningless. The Packers were already locked in as the 7 seed. This was already the case when they lost to the Ravens last Saturday. If they had won against the Ravens, there's still an opportunity that they could have won the division, but of course that didn't happen because of Derrick Henry, so this game meant very little. The good news is that heading into this game, Jordan Love did clear concussion protocol, and he was the backup today, but he did not see any playing time, and Matt LaFleur used this time to rest a whole bunch of starters. Our inactives today were Malik Willis, no Quay Walker, no Josh Jacobs, no Dontavian Wicks, no Xavier McKinney, no Zach Tom, no Edgerrin Cooper, and even guys like Christian Watson were hanging out on the sideline. The Packers made a whole bunch of transactions this past week, just trying to get some folks, whether it's on the defense, getting some new wide receivers, which wound up being one of our leading receivers today. We'll talk about that in a moment. But this game was really just for pure evaluation. With the Packers unable to move up or down in the seedings, it was just like, all right, let's send guys out there and let's see if any of these backups are any good. And Clayton Tune, oh boy, that was some freaking game. Clayton Tune, when we had less than 4 minutes left to go in the game, he had -9 net passing yards. He finished the day 6 for 11 for 34 yards, but was sacked 4 times for 41 yards, which if we do a little bit of math and calculations, that gives us -7 net passing yards. So it was a game that occurred. However, Chris Brooks had himself a nice day on the ground, 13 for 61. Emmanuel Wilson, after running backwards and losing nearly 20 yards, he finished the day positive yardage, 18 carries for 44 yards. The Packers had a total of 128 rushing yards on the day. Our leading receiver today was one of those brand new receivers, Jacoby Keeney-Jones, with a whopping 2 catches for 15 yards. He was also back there returning some kicks and punts. And Matthew Golden, who I actually was hoping we'd see a whole lot more of, especially with a bunch of our wide receivers sitting, he had 2 drops on the day and only caught 1 pass for 8 yards. But again, with -7 net passing yards, you're not expecting a lot of these wide receivers to really have great games. However, where there was some silver linings is where the defense played. Baron Sorrell had 8 total tackles, including 5 solo tackles, so he had himself a pretty nice game. Trayvon Diggs also made his Packers debut. He had 2 tackles there. However, the one downside was we did have some injuries. Bo Melton got injured on a special teams play where he made a tackle, and Javon Bullard got banged up at the end, though he was walking around and out of the blue medical tent, so hopefully that is not anything serious, as we are going to need him for next week for the playoff run. Meanwhile, the Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, he suffered an injury once again, re-injuring that right throwing hand, went 14 for 23, 182 yards before leaving the game. Then you had Max Brosmer come in, who threw for about 57 yards. Jordan Mason was their leading rusher on the ground, 14 for 94 yards. They had 137 total rushing yards. The only touchdown of the day came from C.J. Ham, who got a really nice ovation, as did Harrison Smith, as this is likely their last game with the Minnesota Vikings. And Justin Jefferson had 8 catches for 101 yards, bringing him to over 1,000 yards for the season, which honestly is really damn impressive considering what QBs he's had throwing him the ball. But taking a look at this game, there's not a whole lot to pull from it because again, the Packers didn't really start anybody, and on top of that, they are still the 7 seed. What they're waiting for is who is the 2 seed and who they are going to be playing in the wild card round. If the Bears wind up winning, then they're going up against Chicago. If the Bears lose and the Eagles win, then they'll be going up against Philadelphia. If both them lose, we'll still be going to Chicago. So it'll be really important to see what matchup the Packers are going to get coming up into this week, because I do feel the Packers have a better shot against the Chicago Bears. And listen, this is not a great way to end the season. I know that there's a lot of sarcasm here when we're talking about Clayton Tune tearing it up for -7 net passing yards. The Packers have lost 4 straight games going into the playoffs, which is the opposite of momentum. However, if the Packers are going to wind up doing anything in the postseason, while their defense looked really bad against the Ravens, I do feel pretty good that they looked solid today, even missing a bunch of players because they were going up against the Vikings starters for the majority of this game. But like I was saying, if the Packers are going to do anything in this postseason, it is going to come from their offense. Josh Jacobs got to rest up because he's been dealing with those nagging injuries, so it'll be really nice to see him back at full form. Jordan Love, as I mentioned, he cleared concussion protocol, and it's really just going to come down to, can this offense score a lot of points and make up for the deficiencies on defense? And I think ultimately that's what's going to determine the Packers' fate in this postseason. I know there's a lot of doom and gloom among Packers Nation right now because it's a what-if season, right? What if Tucker Kraft wasn't hurt? What if Devontae Wyatt wasn't hurt? And of course, what if Micah Parsons wasn't hurt? And unfortunately, it is what it is. The Packers finished 9-7-1, so it's not a great record to finish with. They will finish second in the NFC North, with the Vikings finishing third and the Lions finishing in last place. But the Packers still get to play at least one more game, and I do think that this offense can definitely put up points. You saw this when we had the majority of our starters against the Ravens, and even though they did get run over, with Malik Willis, they were still able to put up points and make it competitive in that third quarter before the Ravens ran away with it in the fourth. So I do have a lot of faith in this offense. It's just going to come down to execution and can they score more points than their defense is going to allow from the opposing team. And if they can do that, then yeah, I think that they can win a couple of games. And if they do wind up beating whoever they play in this upcoming week, they have a date with the Seattle Seahawks, who clinched the 1 seed on Saturday night. And so that will definitely be a tough place to play. But yeah, I think expectations are pretty darn low, but I have some optimism that this offense is going to show up. We'll see. I mean, this is why we're paying Jordan Love the big bucks. He's going to be able to come into the playoffs healthy. And who knows, man? The playoffs, it's a completely different season. Let's see what we got. And yeah, maybe a miracle can happen. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. How'd you feel about this game? Not a lot to take away from it. The Packers did force a turnover, so that was really nice. And the pass rush was pretty decent today. So yeah, there's some little things to take away from it. We'll see how Trayvon Diggs does against either the Bears or the Eagles. But it's going to come down to that offense. You know, I saw me at TomGrossiComedy.com, and a big shout and thank you to all the Patreon and YouTube members for supporting this channel. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you for the playoffs. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.